Hello, friends of the internet, and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about all things distributed persistent rendering for faster Jamstack, and I have a super special guest with me here today from Netlify. I've got Kenny joining us. Thanks for joining us, Kenny.
Thank you very much.
First off, what I always like to do is get everyone who's in the chat. Tell us where you're coming from. I'm coming from Port Hope, small town east of Toronto. And Kenny, where are you joining us from?
I'm joining us from Dubai. I'm currently in Dubai at the moment, and it's 8 p.m. for me. So happy to meet everyone.
Awesome. It's great to have you here. Okay, just a few. You know what? I'm going to share some slides just to get us started on a few questions because Kenny's like pretty much an expert in all this stuff, and he's going to teach us all kinds of things.
Yes.
So first, a little bit about me. My name is Joel Vardy. Follow me on Twitter at Joel Vardy. I'm CTO at Agility, and like to do as much learning myself as I can about all the things that are happening in our expanding, growing ecosystem of Jamstack and all those things and how it's evolving. And I'm really, really happy today to have Kenny here. Tell us about yourself, Kenny.
Thank you very much, Joel, for having me on the show. My name is Ekene Eze. You can call me Kenny. My handle is right there at Kenny_IO, and I'm a developer experience engineer at Netlify. So I find myself with Jamstack and all of those things every day. That's me.
Brilliant. Okay, well, let's dive right in. I got a few kind of canned questions here that we've talked about a little bit, but the first thing is, what the heck is distributed persistent rendering?
Yeah. I recently wrote a blog post that I started with that word. What the heck is DPR? So it's not a new framework. It's not a new thing per se, but it's a kind of a new way to build web where you basically say that I want to build this web I want to build this site in this way, right? And that way is where you divide your site into two basic parts to be precise, the critical side and the deferred part. What that really means is if you're building a site and you want to take advantage of the DPR way of doing it, it simply says, I have this content that I want to show to my users that I think is critical that they need to see as soon as possible. And I have this other content that I would generally get on demand when they need it, right? So that kind of like leads to very fast build times, is really good for large sites that are on the Jamstack and all of those things. So it's really a way of building Jamstack sites that makes large Jamstack sites really fast, and we're all trying to take advantage of it at the moment and see all the things we can do with it.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. I think one of the first things when I first started working with Jamstack with, small sort of sites just to kind of test things out, and it came to my mind, yeah, but what if there's, thousands and thousands of pages, and what if the data source to load those is slow? Our build times could be super long. So this is kind of the answer to that. Really appreciate that information.
Yes.
So what's the biggest reason if I'm going to choose, first of all, I'm choosing DPR over something like a server-side rendered site or a completely static rendered site? Those are kind of my choices, right?
Yes. Yes. What I think the biggest reason is basically one of the biggest challenges, or one of the most popular challenges in the Jamstack is in really large sites, right? Build times get incredibly high, and then if your hosting provider is based on your units, then that can incur a lot of cost for you. And it's one of the reasons why DPR is a solution that helps you lower build time, because you're only generating the content that your users need at build time. In other words, every other content you need can be brought in using builders, which will basically make a request to your data and get it and get it cached. Subsequently, it will be served to the cache. So your site is fast. You're getting fast build times as well. It's kind of like a win situation, the way I see it. So it's better than building completely static sites, which is also fast. Then it has its own trade-offs, which you would also want to take advantage of. If I think of DPR as the best of two worlds, if I'm thinking about the server-side apps, and I'm thinking of full static sites as well.
Right. Yeah, the best of both worlds. I like that. Cool.
Yeah.
And so specifically talking about the Next.js framework, how does that work on Netlify with DPR?
Oh, great. So we have the essential Next.js plugin that is natively supports DPR on Netlify. And the way it works is if you have a Netlify site or if you have a Next.js site that is deployed to Netlify, you have access to DPR by default. And that is thanks to Lindsay and Cassidy and some of our colleagues on Netlify who's working around the clock to ensure that this is easy and convenient for everyone. So it's natively supported. If you're building on Next.js, all you really need to do to use DB is Next.js has the get parts function that helps you generate data based on the generate parts that you want to pre-build based on the data that you have on your site. So if you return, if you have that static parts function and you return parts that you want to pre-generate, and you return another fallback and set it to true or set it to blocking, ideally that will trigger an builder, and that builder will ensure that every other part in your site that is not pre-generated in the get static parts function will have an on-demand builder to fetch that part for you. So that's really it. It's that simple.
Okay. Yeah. So say, and I think, and we'll show an illustration of this later, but the idea is if I have the really important parts of my website that are going to be, hit a lot, those 10 really popular pages or 100 really popular pages.
Yes.
We build those as part of the static build.
Yes.
And then let everything get else build as part of like the fallback. Okay. That's cool.
That is.
All right. We're going to see this in some code later. Brilliant. And just in terms of like the actual working with this, how has it been? How has your experience been? First of all, do people get this? Is this a little too much for people to understand? And how has it been for you kind of working with this?
Yeah. So that's the part that I haven't quite figured out how much people get it and how much they understand what it is. That is kind of also my job to make sure that a lot of people understand what it is. Yes, I think it's in there, but at the moment, I think people kind of still see it as a buzzword, like there's ISR, there's DPR, there's ODS, all of these things, and I think it gets confusing to people in the community. But I think if you look at the resources that are out there for it, it kind of becomes easy to make sense out of it. In my experience, it's been really good. Like I said, I think today I was something I sent to you earlier. I was working on that, and I'm like, let's try this out, and I just really switched up a few things, and it just worked like magic, right? So I think my experience has been good. It's been fantastic. It doesn't change the way you currently write your Next.js app. It doesn't change the way if you're also even building on different frameworks, that's also possible, and it doesn't really impact your code. It just like one code for me in my example, and DPR and DPR is working on Next automatically for me. So it's been good. We're trying to see if we can natively support it across all frameworks as well, and that will happen eventually. But at the moment, it's just an on-demand builder function that gets that data for you and cache the response, and subsequently it's been good.
Right. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. No, I and just for you folks, what I'm going to do is share my entire screen now for a second. We're just going to go through a couple other sort of visualizations of this stuff here. All right. So I'm going to do here. Close that guy. All right. Yeah. So there was an interesting. So the blog post that kind of set all this off was from Matt, the CEO of Netlify, talking about a new Jamstack approach for faster builds, and this really got me excited because we've at Agility we tend to work with customers who have much bigger sites, enterprise type customers, and this is certainly a thing that they've been looking at trying to sort of fix, and lots of different ways to do this. But still, I love that the concept here is to still go with the principle of Jamstack.
Yes.
Deploy. And what does that really mean, an atomic deploy?
Yeah, so the atomic deploy means if one of the things that we consider the fundamentals of the principle of building the web, that you have to be sure that you're deploying a particular state of your site. So every deploy you make is an entity of its own that you can roll back to any time, and that is something that we're trying as much as possible to continue to sustain in the Jamstack. We've had come up in the community that tries to solve for large build times, but most of the time, or some of the time, we find out that approaches will either break atomic and immutable deploys, and that means that the whole reason why we are building the Jamstack way in the first place just tends to look like that, right? So atomic deploys and immutable deploys are a way to ensure that your site has a state that you can always roll back to, or you can be sure of what it looks like at every point in time, and we don't want to sacrifice that for anything. Yes.
Right. So yeah, we want to keep atomic deploys because that's a good thing. And I have to say, I've used that to my benefit in the past, where it's like, oh my gosh, what did the site look like yesterday? We need to go find that out. And sometimes you have to roll back or whatever. And that's all. What's interesting is DPR, it is more complex than just plain old static site rendering, right? There's a whole nother level of stuff happening, but this is trying to balance the need for doing these other things, for speeding up our build times and supporting bigger sites, and trying to balance that with complexity. Do you feel that at this point, sort of with Next.js and Netlify, and it's automatic, like I have to say, oops, I'm getting some notifications. Hang on, let me turn off notifications. Forgot to do not disturb. Okay. Do you feel that it is kind of doing that? I think that's probably one of the things that your team worked on, with Cassidy and Lindsay and the team on building that essential plugin, which is just incredible. They've done great work. Do you feel that you're winning this battle?
Yes. That's the best part of the DPR for me. Like, it removes all the complexity and all the overhead into what's going on in a lot of cases, and just knowing that I just need to use a function to get on-demand builders at it, right? Right now, it's as easy as just setting the value of 4 through on Next.js, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. So
okay, we're going to see that in a sec.
All right. Fantastic.
Cool. And then, here's a great graphic that was part of this original blog post, where just, imagine you had all of these pages on your site, and, these are the top sort of whatever number this is, top 12 pages here. And all the other ones, they may never actually get requested. So why pre-render them? And we're going to use pretty much the exact same code to let them get rendered on demand. And what's interesting from a CMS point of view is, it could be that when the site's first deployed, there are only 12 pages, right? So we can't deploy pages that don't exist yet, but as pages get created, they will be added to this build. And we're gonna sort of see that. Okay, cool. There's also another, so this is a good link. I'm actually gonna throw this in the chat so people can actually take a look at that. Throw that in there. And there's another one here on CSS tricks with Chris Coyer wrote. And what he has he's actually got some folks. He's got Matt, he's got Zach, who is the creator of 11T, and 11T has some work to do this, which is really cool. Very neat stuff in there. So
I really like I really like the one with David. If anyone has a chance, I think that's a very good one to watch out. 11T is trying to natively support ODB as well, and I think Zach got a demo to show how that worked. Right there, he was able to defer some part of the authors page on the 11 site and kind of like just generate them when it is requested, and that kind of like, I think he brought down the build time for the 11T site by 40% or something. So that's an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, it's cool. So this is being used in the wild, This is like it's
Yeah.
actually being used out there. So really cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into some code. And what I'm going to do, this is kind of a workshop format. What I want to do is have Kenny kind of help me out here as I'm doing some stuff. But we're going to get started on a starter project to give you give you a leg up to see how this is going to work. If you're building a site that uses a CMS, obviously I work for Agility CMS. And I think that that's kind of like the next level for taking your Jamstack career sort of to new heights. And so you can actually use a CMS to build your websites with Next.js on Netlify. We're going to help you do that. So if you go to agilitycms.com and you click on under resources, click on starters, and we're going to actually start with the Next.js starter. I'll throw this in the chat as well. Okay. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to click Start Free Project. Okay, I've already got mine through, but what this is going to do is create you a free Agility CMS account, and it'll basically build the data model that you need or the content model that you need. Okay, and that will basically take you into Agility, and you'll start, and you'll be right here. I've called mine conveniently Next.js DPR June 24. But then we've also got the code for this. Okay. And I want to actually really focus on the code today because I've got Kenny here, and he's already mentioned a couple of different Next.js things, just change this or that other property. So this code is in GitHub, and you can click on it from there, but I'll also put this in here as well. So this is the starter code that I've worked on. Also Josh here at Agility, who I think he's in the chat too. Shout out to Josh. This is some amazing code he's put together for this starter. And it wasn't actually built to run on Netlify particular, but we're going to see if it does. Okay. We're just going to give it a shot out there. Okay. So the next part of this whole thing is I'm going to go to Netlify. I'm actually going to back up and start completely. If I was going to start completely from scratch on a new Netlify site, I'm going to click on new site from Git. I'm going to go to GitHub, and oops, I skipped a step. Sorry. You need to clone this. You need to clone this code. Right. Sorry. You can't deploy my code. You got to deploy your own code. Okay, so if I was here, I'm going to go into my terminal. Sorry. Right. And you're going to basically run git clone that starter. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you know a little bit of Git and how to do that sort of stuff. You're going to clone that and create your own repo in GitHub. Okay, so I've actually gone and done that just to make things a little quicker. I think it's right here. Here we go. So here is the code that I've cloned and actually put it right back up here, okay? And I haven't made any significant changes whatsoever to this code, okay? Same thing. And then I go to create a new site in Netlify, okay? So DPR, find that repo. I've got a lot of repos. I bet you do too as well, Kenny, huh?
I do, yes.
All right, so we're going to create this site. We're going to leave the defaults because Netlify is super smart about this, and it just is going to do what it needs to do. So it looked at my code and figured out, looks like, hey, seems like this is a Next.js site. So this is cool. And you talked about the essential Next.js plugin. Can you tell us a little bit more about that plugin, Kenny, while I'm filling out some environment variables here?
Yeah, I think it's great. It's the plugin that gives the every Next.js site that is deployed on Netlify native access to DPR and ODB things. When you finally deploy this site to Netlify and you switch over to the plugins tab, I should be able to see that you have the essential plugin installed for you. It's very Netlify is good to find the Next.js site, so it will go ahead and get all those things sorted out for you even before your site is built.
Cool. So what I'm going to go through here is just basically, I'm losing my track of where my browsers are. Sorry. Basically fill out the environment variables. Those are described for you in the source code itself. So there's a file called env.local.example. I've actually filled these out for real for my site to run it locally. So I encourage you to, get it running locally as well. You don't have to run it locally to run it on Netlify, but when you do, you go through, fill all these out. I don't have time to fill those out right now, so because I don't want to waste your time. But I actually did this right here on this site, okay? And I've deployed this a few times. And now that this is deployed, okay, so the first thing that happens when this runs is you see this, this cool thing come through. And when I was working on it, I'm like, oh, cool. I get my next on pre-build, and it adds this plugin Next.js.
Yes.
Okay, which is amazing. And then it does a bunch of Agility stuff. So it actually syncs your content into the site. And it actually creates like functions and other stuff and does all this cool things. And you mentioned plugins. Where would I be able to see the plugins?
Yeah, if you go to the site that you just deployed, that one.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, so it basically automatically added this, what's called a build plugin to my site. So that's amazing. And it just does it. I didn't have to do any work. And then if I actually run the site, of course, we're just going to go see it. It'll basically show us the basic blog that Josh basically created that runs, and it does all the cool things that it needs to do. So that's awesome. Works out of the box. And then I haven't set up anything in Agility itself necessarily to tell, Agility doesn't know that Netlify site is there yet, but because I have turned on some stuff, and we'll go look at that code in a second. If I go add pages to this, they should just show up inside my inside here based on how this is working. And let's look at that, because that to me is one of the more complicated, but it's not that complicated. Thanks. Okay. So we're in our Next.js project, and the first place I always look is the pages folder.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about Agility sites on Next.js is there's only one sort of page file, because Agility does routing for you. It actually gives you a list of all the routes. So there's really two functions that get called in most Next.js sites. Okay, there's get static props and get static paths. Why don't you take us through what we need to return from these two functions? So the first one, get static paths. What's that for?
So that's for all the paths in your site that you want to pre-generate at build time, right?
Right.
As if you're getting your content from Agility or from an external API or from anywhere, this is where you tell Next.js that this is the path I want you to generate for me. So if we're talking about DPR as separating content into critical paths and deferred paths, this is where you specify critical paths, the one you want people to see immediately. Just put all the paths here and return it to your statements, just like you already did. That's it.
Right.
Sorted. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a list of strings that are my paths, and I've got this fallback equals true, which is going to tell Next.js, hey, if you don't find if someone asks for a URL that's not in these paths, then we're going to try it. We're going to try to render it using what's called the get static props function. Okay, so what does this function do, Kenny?
Yes, so that's the function that runs to get your data stuff, to get all the data you need for your site. But the good thing there is that I think if you're using want to use on-demand users, these are really the only functions you have to care about, right? Get all the data you need for your site. The get static paths generates those paths based on the data that you've got from get static props, and that's it. So when you were talking about the other time, this is what I was talking about. Like it's just that simple.
Okay, so we've got get static paths, and I return a list of paths in there. Mm-hmm. And so as part of my like npm run build or yarn build, it calls get static props for every single one of those paths based on where it is in the sitemap here. And of course, this gets called for every single URL. And then what we can do is return. Now this is an interesting thing here. We have this revalidate. Does Netlify actually use the revalidate?
Sorry?
Does Netlify actually use this revalidate? Because I know this was one of the things that was like a new feature in Next.js. How does the revalidate? So I can return, basically I return the, all the data that I need to render this page, which is cool. But there's also this revalidate. Does Netlify actually use this property?
I don't think so. I'm not the authority to answer that. I'm sorry, I don't know for sure. If that, I think probably Lindsay would know how that works. But as far as I know, I've not had to use revalidate at all. Probably that's the case. Maybe it works, but I can't answer in that authority.
Okay, so we have the revalidate property here, but I don't think it actually gets used. So this as part of the DPR. Okay, so
Yeah,
let's just do a
what I
little
think.
demo here.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just do a little demo here in what we've got going on. Okay, so we've got the site, and I haven't hooked up anything in Agility yet in terms of like, I don't have anything that's triggering a new build. Okay, so we're going to be able to prove that, hey, there's no new builds happening here. We just had this one build that that happened back at 11 a.m. as I was testing this out. So I'm going to go into Agility here, and I'm going to create a whole new page. Okay, I'm going to create a page. Let's do another. Well, I did a bio page. Let's just create another one about us, and I'm going to call this one. I don't know what I'm going to call it. Let's just do. Let's call it Ekene. All right.
Hey, Kenny.
All right.
He's got a page.
Kenny's going to have a page on. He's going to have his own about page on the site. It's going to be all about. And I'm just going to put a blank. So one of the things about Agility is Agility has page management as part of a Headless CMS. So all this is actually doing is creating these page props. Basically, we call it Get Agility Page Props. It's just going to return a JSON object with all of the content that I put on this page at this place in the sitemap, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to add a heading module. And this is really just going to be like a component. And we can look at these components in a second. And this is going to say, hey, all about Kenny. So let's do that. Yeah, I want to know more about Kenny.
Yeah.
First of all, how long have you lived in Dubai?
Yeah, I've been here since December last year. So I think about roughly 7-8 months. Okay.
You like it?
I do. I don't like it at this time of the season because it's so hot. You can step outside.
Yeah. Okay, so we have this brand new page. So about us, so the about page, and underneath that is a page called Kenny. All right, so that wasn't there before, and actually I can even prove it because if I look at the build before we do anything here, this actually tells us all the pages that got built, and it doesn't tell us all the names, but that one wasn't them. Like you can just trust me on this one. We can do this again too if you. So I got about us, and the page was called Kenny. So if we go here, boom, we got our new page, even though it wasn't part of the build.
Wow, that is amazing. That cool? It is.
Yeah. Now, there are some things that if I want to then go delete pages or remove pages, then I have to do a full build, right? That's true, right? Because I could also roll back. I could roll back to a previous version of this whole thing. So I have this version. So so this is the current version. If I roll back to a previous one, that page would then be gone. So if you did have content on your site you wanted to immediately get rid of, you could do that or change it. But there is another way. So what's cool is I can trigger a new build by doing code, right?
Yeah.
But is there another way to trigger build? I think I can do something. Is it called a hook?
Yeah, it's called build hooks in your site. If you go to site settings for this site, if you check build and deploy.
Build and deploy.
Yeah, if you scroll all the way down, you should find a build hooks section.
And I fibbed a little bit. I did create one of these before because I wanted to test it out. So what I wanted to do was, okay, of course, I could, whenever my developers check in code, that's going to trigger a new build. But imagine your editors, if they want to, obviously they're putting in new content, and as they add new content, it automatically shows up on the site. Amazing. Yeah. But if they want to actually change something or remove something or basically kick a new build off, they could just hit this URL. So this is, and I think this is one of the things from the editor's point of view that a lot of systems don't really have a good handle on yet, because obviously this is my Headless CMS. It doesn't know anything about Netlify. And that's kind of the point. This content could be on a mobile app. It could be in Netlify. It could be, in Azure Cloud or AWS. I don't care. It's just content. Yeah. But I've actually cheated a little bit here, and I created a custom, a little custom page in here. We have the ability to do custom reports, and I just created one that all it does is it goes and grabs the Netlify build badge. And so this is I'll show you the code for this page. I actually put it in my site because I just wanted to do a little bit of stuff. So here's my Netlify build badge. This is also available. You just go and copy the image. And then I've got a thing to basically refresh this page and actually trigger a deploy. And all that's going to do is post to that build thing. So if I had something where, let's go and delete these pages because I really, you know what, Kenny, I love you, but I want to get rid of this page. You know what? It just isn't you haven't filled out your bio on the site yet. And you know what? Okay,
Oh
so let's delete
no,
that page.
Kenny's gone.
I know, it was great while it
We'll
lasted,
bring you
but
back.
yeah. Okay. So now we want to get rid of those pages. So if I don't do anything, this is still there, okay? Because all I've done is change the content and we're not deleting it as part of that atomic build. But if we trigger an entirely new build, then we can do this. Okay, so I'm going to click deploy. And what that's going to do is actually trigger that Netlify build. And by the way, I love watching these. I don't know if anyone else is like me. I love so if you see this is building, I just love it because there's so many cool things. I feel like, you know, when you're building a building, you often have to start with the foundation. I feel like with Next.js on Netlify, I'm already at like the 10th floor. Right, I start the building, and I just need to build the penthouse. I don't have to worry about the basement or any of that stuff. I just build the cool penthouse at the top. This is like my awesome place where I live, and I get to see all this stuff. And it happens so fast.
Really if I'm not working on any side and I click that deploy button, I always come all the way to the debug. I enjoy reading all that is going on under the hood, and it's super fast too, so it's good.
Yeah, so it's all built. It did its thing. It took like 30 seconds, and then I'm sorry, Kenny.
Oh my God!
But you are not.
I'm done.
It's no. So that's cool, right? So within seconds now, I can basically have new content on the site, and it works, and it's automatic, and I didn't need to do anything special. So I think that's pretty doggone cool about how all that stuff works. Now I want to dig a little bit more. Yeah, I want to dig a little bit more into Next.js in particular, into how this site is put together. And I want to hear your thoughts on it, Kenny, because this is an interesting thing where not a lot of CMSs give you the ability to just basically output all your page paths. And so this is a kind of a cool concept that I like to show people, and I hope that you think it's cool. What's interesting is in terms of you talked about this get static props, right? So this call is like the center of everything in the Next.js kind of world, because this gets called during the build, but then it gets called on demand. How does it call it on demand? How does that work?
So that's the good thing about what you just said about being able to generate all the paths for your site. If you, for instance, want to get data into your site at any time, a static props is your go-to guy to get that done, right? And I'm also really interested to see how it works on Agility, how Agility is doing that. So I haven't used Agility as much, so that's also part of the things that got me interested in this webinar, because I feel like Joel is going to write some Agility code, and I'm going to see how that works.
Okay, cool. So I'm loving this. Okay, great. So Agility is very componentized, and let's just look at what is in a page. Okay, let's look at the blog listing page, because that's probably the most complex one that we've got that's going on here. So there's a page here, and this page uses what's called a template. Okay, so this template is defined in my model section, and I'll jump that over here. And we only have one page template, and it has what's called a zone. Okay, and I can put multiple zones on here. So that's the idea, is like I've got a component that's going to be named with this template, and it'll have zones that are there. So just kind of keep that in your mind for a second as I jump into the code. And under components, we've got Agility's. I just created a folder for page templates. Actually, Josh did. And we've got this one called main template, right? And in here, we've got main content zone. What's cool is if I had multiple zones for, like, maybe I had multiple columns in my site, I could do something like this, where this whole thing is in, like, I don't know, I'm making this up as I go along here. Oh, and there's I don't need any emojis here right now. Excuse me, as I just do like fake live coding here. Right. So say I had a main content zone and then like a side, maybe something called like a sidebar content zone. I could totally do that. And then the idea would be it kind of gives your editors the ability to put content in a place. Okay. Now I'm not going to save that. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But then we have these things called modules. Okay. And so what's happened is these are basically just saying, what are the props that I need to render my components? Okay. So for instance, we had like a featured post, right? And so I have a picker of blog posts. So pick the blog post that you want to show up. How does that look actually on the page? All right. Oops. Let's go to the blog page. So I have there's a heading one as well. It's even simpler. Heading is like type in the title. Okay. So the only prop I need in my thing is a title. This one, a little more complex. The only prop I need here is a post. So this is like a linked content. So it's referencing over to the blog post list. And then the most complicated one is the post listing, which is actually going to show me all the blog posts. Okay. Let's look at how that gets rendered. With the idea is that all of this needs to get rendered at get static props. Okay. So what get static props does is it actually calls get agility page props. And that's basically part of the Agility / Next.js package that we've put together that does this. It basically just does all this work for you. It says, hey, these are all the modules that you've put on this page. Here's the props for all your modules, for all these components. And then that comes through. If I look at, for instance, heading's the simplest one. I have this module and it has a fields property, and I look, hey, I need the title field. Well, that was easy. By the way, and if you're having a allergic reaction to all of these crazy classes, this is Tailwind. Kenny, quick poll. Are you a Tailwind supporter? You like it?
Yeah, I do. I like it.
Okay. Show of hands in the chat if you are Tailwind supporters or Tailwind detractors. I love Tailwind. Personally, I love it because we work with so many different like frameworks, React, Vue, I'm in like Nuxt, I'm in, 11T, all these different things. It means that I can take the code I wrote for one and just kind of plunk in another one to see how things look. Yeah. So anyway, loving the Tailwind. Cool. But hey, if it's not for you, you can do other things. Let's look at the post listing. Okay, a little more complex. You can see I actually get Agility and sends me a list of posts as part of it. Knows that I need this list of posts, right? And so I basically just use regular React code, and I'm just going to loop through this list of blog posts. We have an Agility image component that it basically wraps the next image component. Works awesome and resizes all your images for you exactly how they need to be, and outputs the different fields, even including the category, which is linked content, from your post as well. So pretty awesome how all of that just kind of works, and it all is enabled by Next.js on Netlify. So it all just kind of works. And what's really cool, and there's one more thing, you can set up multiple languages on here too. So Next.js has multi-locale support, so you can set that up. I don't go through this, but I know that Josh wrote some great documentation on our help site for setting up multiple locales. So if I want to have English, Spanish, French, and any other languages, I can set that up and have that all run. So really cool stuff there.
I like how the Agility props work too.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's great.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, I'm going to walk you through a couple of the things here. So because this is, to me, when it comes down to static site generation versus DPR and server-side rendering, you could also set up your website to run in server-side rendering mode. But what actually is happening when Netlify runs this site for you, it basically calls yarn build or npm run build, depending on what you do. And let's look at what happened here. So you can see Agility actually does what's called a content sync. Okay, so it actually pulls down all of your content that it's going to need so that your build is actually as fast as it can possibly be. And what Netlify does is it actually keeps that cache, so it doesn't have to do it time after time. So as I do a new build, you can see I pulled down, this site has 27 content items. It only pulls down the delta. So that's part of the static build. So that's cool. And you can see where it builds the pages. But then it kind of runs, it runs yarn start somewhat. Okay. And then now I have this site running locally. Okay. Cool. And now you can actually test out kind of what's going to happen on Netlify from your own local computer to see how it's going to work when you add new content into this, because basically all you need to do is, publish a new page, or let's just go and try it. Let's bring Kenny back. Doing it.
Told
Bringing
you all
Kenny back.
Kenny was coming back.
He's coming back. All right. So we got the about page. Right now, Kenny is not here. Kenny is not available, right? And you can see 404.
Yeah.
It tried to find it. It tried to get it. It's not there. All right. So we're going to go in. We're going to bring Kenny back. We're going to give him rich text as opposed to just a header, because you know what? You're not just a header. You're not just one line. You're multiple lines of awesome. Okay?
I deserve some rich text.
Right. Yeah, he deserves richness. You're going to be bold, italicized, and everything. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Oh, there's all that text Martin going on right.
Yeah, here we go. All right, so we're going to publish this page. All right. I did not plan any part of this in the demo. We just had, we just got through so much content so quickly. Here we go. All right, so now if we refresh this page, hopefully this works. It should basically pull in the new there. Hey, we got Kenny.
Kenny's back. There you go.
So we can test exactly what's happening in Netlify on our local machine in as if it was live mode. This is viewing published content right now. Whereas if I just run yarn dev, it's going to basically run the same thing in development mode. Okay. So that's going to show me, and you'll see this up here. When Josh put this together, he wanted to make it clear that's like what content you're looking at when you're working with this site. So really, really cool that just kind of is a little helper to say, am I looking at latest content or published content? Because in a CMS, you often has the idea of things that are like, I've saved it, but I haven't published it for the live website yet. So it's important to know kind of what you're looking at. This has been great. Kenny, I want to give a chance for you to just chat a little bit about first of all, if you have any questions in the chat, now is the time, because we got a few minutes left at the end. But I also wanted to just give Kenny a chance to kind of chat about, I want to know what it's like to work at Netlify and what your kind of job is there with developer experience.
Great. Thank you for giving me the opportunity by the way. Appreciate that. Working on Netlify has been great. I've been here since, I think, November last year. And it's been amazing. I get to work with this awesome team, being the DX team, having Jason, Cassidy, Lindsay, Ben, Tara. There's so much energy in the team. There's so much love for one another, and everyone learning from each other. It's amazing. I really like working on the Jamstack, right? And I think that's even what drove me to join the company in the first place. So it's part of my job. I try as much as possible to keep doing Jamstack things and telling people about it. So I have a YouTube channel that I just started. Just one video there up at the moment, but I intend to subsequently put out content on the Jamstack and how to get things like this done, right? So we're as part of the DX team, it's our job to continue to liaise with developers out there building on the Jamstack, and really just brainstorming on ways to keep making the web better, faster, and easier to build. Right. So we also write a lot of blog posts. If you check the Netlify blog, you will probably be tired of seeing articles from the members of the DX team, but we're sorry. We'll just keep putting them out there for you all to continue to read. We also have this Explorers platform where everybody can go and learn how to build on the Jamstack for free, right? It's at explorers.netlify.com, and it's free. There's content there for how to build with Sanity, Next.js, serverless functions, how to work with Redux, literally all the things you need to understand how the Jamstack works and how to do things. It's all there, and it's for free. And if you do complete a course, you even get a swag from the Netlify team, right? We send you some stickers and some nice things just for taking the course and everything. So it's been amazing here at Netlify. I'm happy with the work we're doing, and I've come to start liking Agility. I've just a blog post I was writing today, and I'm like, I have to put Agility CMS in there. I want to see how that works. But I was short on time and I put it out, but I'm going to make an updated one after this webinar. Yeah, how's how's life been at Agility?
It has been a ride. I think we have, in the last 3 years, we have been working pretty closely with Netlify and different folks in the community. And this, like, it's a really great community. And I think Netlify is a big part of that because the DX team is so inviting and community oriented. And these tools are all free to learn with. And Agility took a page from Netlify's book there, and we have a free developer edition that we have, thousands of people are on this thing for free and learning how to build sites. And what's amazing is a lot of those free accounts are deployed on Netlify, first of all, which is awesome. But they are learning how to build sort of enterprise level websites that they can use in their job. And it's been really interesting to see folks experiment with things like Next.js on Netlify to say, you know what, I'm going to use this for this actual project that I have that I'm going to get paid for. And so it's kind of like crossing that gap between just building a free project and learning and figuring out how things change. And then, and a lot of folks are brand new to the Jamstack, right? They're just learning how to do this. They're coming from PHP or Java or whatever. And then they're just front-end developers. They've only ever been JavaScript developers, the designers. And these people are building like amazing front ends, and they're enabled to build great sites. So I just think it's like, I just love how many people are new to the community, and it is such a welcoming community, and we're just happy to be part of it.
Yeah, it's incredibly amazing how much people get on the Jamstack every day. It amazes me sometimes, and other times I'm like, yeah, I mean, they should be here. You need to be on the Jamstack, right? But I think we're also trying to make it easy for people to come in, trying to put out a lot of resources, trying to make people understand why they need to build the Jamstack way. Something that I find interesting is the number of people who are trying to build large sites on the Jamstack, right? And that is something that I think everybody in the Jamstack community has been looking for ways to make better, to make sure that we accommodate enterprises on the Jamstack. I put out a blog post about it on the different best practice people can take advantage of to build large sites on the Jamstack, and that amazing. And I figured that a lot of people want this, so I started a series of video tutorials that I want to subsequently take every single part of that blog post and just go into details and show you how to do this, because I feel like that is something that a lot of Jamstack developers are in the market for at the moment, and that would really be helpful for the community.
Yeah, as bigger business and bigger sites have said, oh, I want the benefits of static site rendering and all the things that Jamstack and better user experience, as these sort of get moved over, in terms of like corporations or just the actual web properties themselves. I think that's really great, Kenny, because this is what people want to know. How can I support these big sites, these editor heavy sites where their CMS is driving the content, or the content's coming from like external databases? How do we make those work in a great way and a great experience for developers, for editors, and of course, most importantly, the user, right?
Yeah. Like when I've talked to people about the Jamstack, the thing that they usually say as why they might not want to come to the Jamstack is, oh, this is all well and good, but I work for large enterprises and I can't possibly put all the sites there and all of that. I'm like, you can, you probably just don't know how, and I can help you with that, right?
Awesome.
So I think that's what people usually have a problem with, is they feel like the Jamstack is just maybe for blogs and for small e-commerce sites and all of these things, but it is powering a lot of enterprises. Actually, even on the Jamstack.org site, I think there's a section for all the enterprises that are currently running on Jamstack. You'll be amazed at the level of enterprise applications running on Jamstack at the moment. So that's really incredible. I like that people are also doing case studies on how they migrated their large enterprise applications to the Jamstack, and that's also out there for anyone that wants to see that. It's incredible. I mean, I love what the Jamstack does. I like how it makes life easy for developers. I like how it makes the web faster and easier to approach. So I just don't know why not do the Jamstack, right? So
why not? I love it.
yeah.
Okay, well, that was all the content that I had for today. And Kenny, it's been amazing chatting with you and hearing your experiences. And I just can't wait to see where you go. Follow. Can you know what, Kenny, if you can throw a link to your video series there that you started, your YouTube channel or whatever, and your blogs, throw the link to there in the chat so people have that.
Let me get that.
A couple other links that are really important to have. I think Olga, thanks, Olga, has been put some stuff on there for following Kennedy, follow Agility on Twitter, things like that. There's also a Slack channel for folks who want to learn more about Agility, and if you're working with it, to get in touch with that. I think that log in. I'll just get that URL for you. To join the Slack community in Agility. Oh, there it is. There, you're ahead of us. Olga. That way you can get connected with the rest of the folks and the Agility developers.
Yeah. And
then, wow, the avatar that came up for you is wrong, Kenny. Wow, that's weird.
I think that was weird. That was my first ever avatar. I think I did back in 2015, maybe. I don't understand why that is there. Right? Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure who that is, but I know that's Kenny's channel. You get in there and you'll get the real Kenny in there. You'll get the real Kenny. All right.
Yeah. It's been amazing hanging out with you, Joel. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Olga, for helping put it all together. Olga is amazing. Thank you, girl.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Kenny. And next workshop is coming up. We're talking about Jamstack. We're talking about GraphQL, Headless CMS, bringing all these things together with e-commerce. It's just going to be a great sort of opportunity to sort of go to the next level with some technical stuff. Kenny, it's been great having you on the channel. Thanks for coming. Hopefully we can bring you on again. And everybody, thanks for joining us. This has been amazing. And until next time.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it. Bye.